The octopus monster's pupils dilated as it looked down, its tentacles trembling as they slammed into the tower of the Rotayer estate. People screamed in terror, some using all their might to hold the fourth-floor storage door shut. Asterisk pant. Pant asterisk. We have to hold it. Stand firm. The wooden door was no match for the giant octopus's tentacle. Its tentacle whipped across the nobleman's face. A red spout, like a whale's blowhole, erupted from the top of his head. The giant octopus monster glared and growled. Tanya trembled in fear, covering her mouth as she saw the nobleman fall at her feet. How did things get this bad? She winced with tears in her eyes, trying to stifle a scream. Outside, a tower had already been knocked down by it. Tanya trembled in confusion as she thought, if this keeps up, this tower is definitely going to collapse. She cautiously peeked below and saw two figures standing opposite each other. Between Ed and Awen lay a corpse being consumed by blue flames. This was the third-floor hall of the Rotayer Estate's annex. They both raised their weapons, preparing to charge. The two of them clashed as his thoughts raced. Awen Rotayer had a younger sister, 5 years her junior, named Tanya Rotayer. Ed gritted his teeth, struggling to cast a defensive spell. And a younger brother, 3 years her junior, named Ed Rotayer. However, she was the one who was the rightful heir of the Rotayer family. She angrily slammed her sword into the ground. He gritted his teeth in pain from a wound on his arm. Her speed is incredible. A legendary sword capable of absorbing all sources of elemental mana, yet almost no one was strong enough to wield it due to its immense weight. The Dawn Sword. That was an absurdly extravagant gift for a child who had just been baptized. Ed regained his composure, swinging his arm to cast a fire element spell. He clenched his fist, unleashing a mid-tier convergence explosion spell. Ed raised his arm to shield his face from the blast of the attack. Even so, no one ever doubted that she would be a worthy master of the Dawn Sword. From a young age, she not only excelled in social studies, politics, and administration. Owen looked at him with an emotionless gaze and countered with a defensive spell. It was said she was also proficient in all kinds of magic and alchemy, but above all, she was a natural-born genius with the sword. The powerful nobles who had witnessed Awen Rotayer in her prime did not hold back their praise, proclaiming that a beautiful flower had just blossomed in the house of Rotayer. But all of that was just a story from the distant past. He stomped his foot, casting Harmonized Blessing, which temporarily increased his fire resistance. Ed looked at Awen with an emotionless expression. Now, it was all just a memory. The younger brother who had once idolized his sister, and the man with an identical appearance to his own. At that moment, he acted without thinking, stomping down with such force that the ground shattered into pieces. Only one thought ran through his mind. After just one direct confrontation, he could already see Owen's weakness. Weight reduction. Infusing the sword with fire was just a cover-up for the weight reduction magic. All of her moves utilize centrifugal force. Since she doesn't use any straight thrusts, no matter how fast she is, as long as I focus on predicting the trajectory of her slashes, I can dodge them. Owen's greatsword relies entirely on inertia when the weight reduction spell is cancelled and its original weight returns. A weapon that constantly changes its mass like that is extremely susceptible to external forces. If that's the case, I can also deduce the purpose of the weapon she's holding in her other hand. It's just a backup plan for when her main sword is neutralized. But once the distance between us widens, she'll definitely go back to using her sword. Now that I understand all these rules, reacting quickly to her attacks is no longer that difficult. This is really annoying. This situation is completely different from what I know. Awen Rotayer is a variable that wasn't in the original script. It feels like I'm missing some important detail. I need to keep observing. Awen's sword-wielding tentacle fell to the ground, but she quickly picked it back up. His thoughts continued to race. Limbs created by the power of Mebuler can regenerate. That's an extremely difficult ability to deal with. In return, the price is the loss of one's mind. Therefore, a person controlled by the evil god Mebuler, though still alive, must endure suffering more horrific than death. As per the pact, the instinct to slaughter will consume all reason, and only the strongest desire they had in life will remain as a lingering will. For example, Kadek, the Eagle Knight who was always loyal to House Rotayer, retained a shred of his obsession to protect the family until his last breath. Of course, his cognitive abilities had become extremely limited, but his speed, attack power, and range were all significantly enhanced. I'm at a severe disadvantage. I can't let this fight drag on. On top of the annex, Grepin is waiting to complete the ritual to summon the evil god Mebuler. Even though there are forces holding him back for now, if the ritual succeeds, every life around here will become a sacrifice and vanish. To survive, I must defeat Awen and stop Grepin's plot. Ed was stunned when he saw Owen's blade touch him. She had summoned water spirits. Another thought entered his mind. Of course, if the conditions for survival have already been considered, there's no reason for me to choose such a risky path. He gritted his teeth, leaning to dodge the tip of Awen's sword, then swung his own, cutting off a lock of her hair. Ed attacked while calculating silently. Once the Dawn's sword is countered, she'll switch to her next attack form. Her speed is still as sharp as it was when the fight began. But now, I'm starting to catch up to her rhythm. He raised his small sword to block her large blade. He ducked smoothly, avoiding Awen's sword. As he backed away, parrying the attack, he continued to strategize. A single mistake here will cost me my life. Every step has to be precise. Ed's magic orb suddenly dropped to the ground and quickly activated. An attraction combat artifact, temporarily pulling nearby objects toward itself. He barely managed to block the attack. I managed to catch the tip of her sword just as she was about to retract it. It was only for a split second, but that was more than enough to turn the tables. Even if she gets her weapon back, her next slash will be a beat slower, because she used an acceleration skill. Ed's eyes widened in shock. It was a thrust, accelerated by magic. He froze in shock. The colossal tower could no longer take the strain and snapped in two. Tanya suddenly appeared and lent him her strength. She sobbed uncontrollably as she cast healing magic on S. The three Rotayer siblings confronted each other in an incredibly tense situation. He glared, pointing his sword at Awen. She pressed her lips together, aiming her own sword at S's companion. A flicker of hesitation showed in Awen's eyes, and finally, her emotions overwhelmed her reason as her eyes widened. Awen's hands went limp, dropping the sword. Seizing the moment she let her guard down, he suddenly appeared and slashed her across the back. Another massive explosion erupted from beneath the rubble, and that final attack was what caused the tower to collapse completely. After taking a direct hit from Mebuler, the eastern tower came crashing down onto the annex. Fragments of stone rained down, and the area was quickly engulfed in thick smoke and flames. Emerging from the black smoke was the image of Awen holding Tanya Rotayer. S watched in horror and panic. He froze in astonishment when he heard her voice. Fortunately, a memory of Awen suddenly surfaced in S's mind based on what was recorded in his letters. It seemed his sister had once wanted to give up on everything. She had confided in him, but their father's ambition was too great, and it became the shackles of their family. S suddenly understood. That's why she chose to obey Grepin. From that point on, everything was just speculation. Grepin had performed cruel experiments on Awen herself to summon an evil god, a being that always craved the souls of noble bloodlines. His sister was the perfect sacrifice. During all that time submerged in pain, what did Awen truly wish for? Even after becoming a pawn of the evil god, what allowed her to cling to that fragile sliver of reason while her very being was slowly fading away? In the present, Awen was holding Tanya in her arms, comforting her as she pleaded, "Go. Get out of here, Tanya. S, you two can't stay here. Please. You have to leave this mansion right now. Model."